Billings police are investigating a second armed robbery that happened Thursday morning, just 6 hours after the gas station robbery we reported to you yesterday morning. The second robbery happened shortly after 8 o'clock at Lucky's Grand Casino. A man armed with a knife entered the casino at 13th Street West and Grand Avenue and demanded money. After taking an unknown amount of cash, the robber ran out of the business. He's described as a white male in his 20s, wearing all black clothing with a bandana covering his face and a beanie. Lieutenant Mark Cady tells Q2 the suspect left on foot but was getting into a white Ford pickup truck. Cady says the suspect's description is similar to a man who robbed the Cinex Zip Trip earlier in the day. A memorial service will be held today for the Fort Smith woman who died in a crash in Bighorn County on Sunday. The woman has been identified as 41-year-old Michelle Walking Bear. Known for her accomplishments with the Indian National Finals Rodeo, the association issued a statement earlier this week recognizing Walking Bear as a tour champion, many-time INFR qualifier, and horse owner of the year. Walking Bear died Sunday when her vehicle went off Highway 313, rolled, and she was ejected. She was pronounced dead at the scene. State lawmakers got their first look at a bill to continue Medicaid expansion in Montana. Democratic State Representative Mary Cafaro of Helena is sponsoring House Bill 425. It would extend Medicaid expansion in its current form. The program provides government-funded health coverage to about 95,000 low-income adults in Montana, but it's set to expire in June. She says her bill's only significant changes to the program are more money for its workforce training program and obligating hospitals to pay about $15 million to help finance it. Republican State Representative Ed Buttrey of Great Falls is working on an alternative Medicaid bill that will likely include some restrictions on eligibility. When asked why majority Republicans at the legislature would accept her bill instead of Buttrey's, Guerrero said the success of the program speaks for itself.
When I get elected, I don't get elected to do this, put my finger in the air and see what is politically and acceptable in the legislature. What I get elected to do is represent people. That's what we need to do, is talk about the wildly successful program, the status quo that we have today, and really the question becomes, why wouldn't Republicans support what we have?
The federal government covers 90% of the program's cost, but the state must pick up the remainder. Meanwhile, Governor Bullock's $160 million infrastructure bonding package cleared its first hurdle Thursday, but Republican members of the committee that endorsed the plan said it's just a first step and indicated the bill will face changes as it moves through the legislature. The budget panel voted 4-1 to advance House Bill 14, which would authorize the state to borrow the $160 million to pay for various projects. Those include a $32 million remodel of Romney Hall on the MSU campus in Bozeman and another $32 million for a new State Historical Society building in Helena and about $85 million for local water, wastewater, and other projects all across the state. Committee Chairman Mike Hopkins of Missoula said the legislature will ultimately decide what level of bonding or borrowing the state can afford for building projects. The only no vote came from Republican Senator Kerry Smith of Billings. He said it's a mistake to place all of the local projects in the bill along with the larger projects, which often face opposition.
We've lumped a lot of different types of projects in here that have sailed through in past sessions with no problem at all with certain types of projects and lumped them with projects that we just don't seem to be able to get past, which puts a lot of good stuff at jeopardy.
At some point it becomes a discussion about what is the proper role of bonding in state government. And then the secondary question has to be, well, what is the proper level of bonding for state government? And it's a discussion that we have every session. I don't think it's a discussion that's going to end here today in this subcommittee.
Majority Republicans have indicated they may vote later to scale back the governor's proposal. Back here in Billings, in January of 1910, college students made the trek from downtown Billings to what is now Rocky Mountain College. The power was out, so they ate a cold dinner by candlelight to celebrate the opening of their new campus. More than a century later, on Thursday night, Rocky Mountain College held its 110th candlelight dinner. The tradition remembers those who were there at what was once Billings Polytechnic Institute. The dinner honors alumni and others who have contributed to Rocky over the decades.
It's part of the Rocky spirit, you know, to take something and make it great. So many of these historic buildings on Rocky's campus were built by the students, so they were actually paid to bring some of the sandstone down, and I think it's trying to capture that tradition and keep those memories alive. You can almost feel all of the people of the past who have made Rocky what it is today, their spirit alive and well in this building and around this campus.
While the candlelight dinner celebrates 110 years, Rocky's roots go back 141 years to 1878 at its beginning in Deer Lodge and Helena. Turning to health news, February is Heart Month. The CDC reports that about 610,000 people die of heart disease each year in the United States, and 735,000 Americans have heart attacks every year. Q2's Rob Griggs introduces us to a local educator who has made some major changes to his curriculum after learning about proper heart-healthy nutrition the hard way.
Use green onions or red onions instead, but make sure you brunoise.
Chef Bill Jensen is the culinary director for the Billings Career Center. Now, like most public school culinary directors, Chef Bill writes the curriculum and teaches students how to cook. Nothing new there, but a trip to the ER last September changed his life and his approach to teaching students about food.
That would be a fabulous garden.
My wife drops me off, she goes to the park, I walked in, told them who I was, they said have a seat. I was in a wheelchair and I was hooked up and got EKG, they took tests, and next thing I know I had a doctor put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Sir, you're having a heart attack." And that was pretty shocking.
Billings Clinic cardiologist Dr. Brian Ross said Bill made a common mistake in self-diagnosing his problem as acid reflux. The mistake could have been costly.
What's interesting about him is that he thought his symptoms were secondary to reflux. I would say it is sometimes difficult to tell the difference. So if your symptoms are more exertional, stress-related, and not typically after food, then I would be more concerned that it's heart-related.
Chef Bill is on the mend, eating right, feeling great with more energy than ever for teaching. And he's sharing the good news with his students about eating right and living a healthy lifestyle.
It kind of happened out in front of them, and they saw the changes. They saw my, I've lost a lot of weight. I've made a few dietary changes, but I also have a lot of energy. I feel a lot better, and I talk more about the reasons why we should eat certain foods and the reason why we shouldn't eat certain foods.
Write this down.
They can see firsthand what nutrition should look like and what proper nutrition is, and that it isn't hard or difficult to understand or learn. So as an educator, it is important to be an example and teach the right thing to the right age group.
And you can add to that if you want.
In Billings, Rob Griggs, MTN News.
It is important to know the signs of a heart attack. Early action is one of the best tools for survival. Those signs are chest pain or discomfort, upper body pain in the arms, back, neck, jaw, or upper stomach, shortness of breath, nausea, lightheadedness, or cold sweats. If you experience any of these signs, seek medical attention immediately.